We're live. All right. Welcome everybody to Wall Street Reporter's next super stock, a live stream today, December 4th. Back with us once again after just a debut a few days ago is Conrad Vasella. Conrad, welcome back.
Thanks, Jack. I love being on, man. I know you're missing me a little bit.
We are. So, well, in the audience, we got a huge response last time. So, again, everybody who's joining us for the first time, Conrad is the CEO of ESE Entertainment, ESE on the TSX Venture, ENTEF over the counter. Conrad, the reason why you're back really is right after you had your debut, was it Tuesday? Was it Tuesday this week?
Yeah.
You had a major news announcement the next day, which I don't think the market really understands the significance of it. So what I'd like to do is have you explain, what is this new deal all about? You announced this LOI to buy this, looks like a esports infrastructure company. So I'll let you explain in your own words.
So we'll be releasing the details soon, but I want to highlight the structure of it first. So as it pertains to the deal, it's going to be under 10 million shares with a 3-year vesting period. It's going to be under 500K in cash. And most importantly, it's going to be anticipated under 50 million shares outstanding once completed. So, I mean,
sounds cheap.
You got to be excited. You got to be excited, right? It's exactly in line with our M&A strategy. It's accretive. They earn money, and we're really we have the shareholders in mind here.
So this company is doing 12 million in revenues right now, right? Canadian.
12.5+ million and growing fast. The synergies between ESE and WPG are phenomenal. I think the revenue will actually skyrocket once we join forces. And it's a fantastic opportunity to build not only WPG's business line, but also ESE's.
So to start off with, so the acquisition, it's an accretive acquisition. It's not dilutive in case anybody's worried. But what is their business all about? What does this company do? Like, what attracted you to this acquisition? Like, what's the strategic fit for ESE?
Well, number one, revenue. And as you mentioned, accretive acquisition. It's a clear vision from day one. We're not going to pursue non-accretive acquisitions. We want real revenue on the books, and we want to be able to scale. So this acquisition has a phenomenal infrastructure, and it's basically the battery pack of the industry.
For the esports industry.
Absolutely. And you cannot scale without infrastructure. This adds on another 100+ employees into our company, elite operators in some of the biggest companies in the world. And we can't get into details, but it aligns us with the world's largest esports company and the world's largest motorsport group in the world. So to say I'm excited is a massive understatement.
Okay. And so these guys are doing 12.5 million. So it's esports infrastructure. So like in terms of like what do they do like exactly? Like what are the services they provide? Why are they essential for the players like in this space?
So they provide data and technologies, and they go in and isolate opportunities within a current business and then elevate their revenue and find ways to generate new revenues for that company and really give them the overall esports expertise that we have. So a lot of these big groups are new to esports. They don't know how to monetize, which is a huge issue with a lot of the listed companies. And we know how to do that. And so does WPG. So we're going to help grow those revenue lines. I mean, it's just a fantastic marriage between us and WPG. We know how to scale and we know how to generate revenue in the sector.
Okay, so we're gonna jump into audience questions in just a little bit. But what I want to do is we got a lot of new people watching right now. So, Conrad, can you give a snapshot of exactly, the ESE business model, markets you're in, kind of, the three pillars you're operating and all that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's just go over a quick little overview. So executive summary, guys, the core business lines is obviously our technology and our gaming franchise. As it pertains to technology, we have a digital tournament software, we have an e-commerce platform, and we have our simulation racing software that does 3D scanning of tracks. We also have a gaming franchise where we own exclusive digital media rights and media rights around the world. We have a professional esports team known as Kick, one of the fastest growing esports teams in the world. And we own and manage tournaments and leagues around the world. So that's the kind of core crux of the business.
So really, it's almost like your position. It's in every sector of the esports space. It's almost like
nothing leaves the ecosystem.
Yeah, it's a whole ecosystem. It's almost like as if somebody they own they like a NFL football team. They also own the production studios, and the league, the whole thing. So it's a kind of like a turnkey opportunity. Let me ask you.
Yeah.
What do you see though? You have these three areas, but what do you see as the real, like, which one has kind of the most potential? Because at some point, one of these is going to break out. That's the one that's going to scale. No.
You know what? We want to continue to build each line as hard and as fast as we can, and as time passes, naturally one of them is going to become a leader. Potentially, the opportunity with digital media rights and some of the technologies that we have could become a front runner, of course. But we need to build these out. We need to scale with real revenue and really isolate which one we're going to spend a little bit more time on. But I think the opportunity is so great in each line. Why would you not focus and build all of them out? And you had a great parallel. I mean, I used to play professional football, so I understand that world really well. And, the NFL is not just about owning the Dallas Cowboys. It's about who owns the media rights. And then even further, the NFL itself, that's the real giant juggernaut. That's what we want to be, right? And they own the media rights. They have these long-term deals with all these fantastic brands and advertisers, multi-year deals, billion-dollar deals. I mean, that's where we position ourselves and we work towards that model. And I played pro football for 5 years, so I understand that inside and out. And I think it's a model that works. But there's a bigger opportunity with esports because there's more viewership in esports, A, and B, it's a bigger market, it's global, and it's online. It's unbelievable. It's an opportunity that does not come around. It's once in a lifetime type of thing.
It's a generational opportunity. Yeah, it's definitely. Because so to give some context, like esports right now, from what I'm reading, is there's more viewers for esports than there are for physical sports, right? Because it's very accessible. For whatever reason, people love watching esports, playing esports, whatever, but it's much more popular than you were doing. I'm sorry to insult you, but no, people prefer esports to football now. So you've moved on to this thing here, and what's interesting is this: it's sort of like right now, it's sort of like let's say the NFL was maybe in the 1960s, or the NBA was in the 1970s. That's where esports is right now. Right before those leagues, the teams became worth billions, multi-billions of dollars. Right before the team. The same thing was with esports now. I think that's what the opportunity is. The difference is because we're in the digital world now. These things can scale much faster. So it's not going to take 20 years for esports, for teams to become worth big money like it did with the physical world, like with football players and whatever, basketball and all that. So it's tremendous.
No, and I absolutely agree. And there's already proof to what you just said. Look at Tencent, look at Activision Blizzard, look at EA Sports. We're talking tens and tens of billions of dollars market caps there. It's already proven. The next phase is now esports. Who's going to be the first billion-dollar company in esports? Who's going to build that infrastructure to sustain and grow long term? We are, because we're making the appropriate acquisitions now to build a tremendous foundation to build upwards. We're not going backwards. We're building the foundation. We're scaling with meaningful revenue and core fundamentals of business, and we're going to get there.
Okay, so Conrad, let me ask you this: you're closing in on this infrastructure deal right now. There's still, again, like, even though esports right now it's a multi-billion-dollar market now, but it's still small. It's still relatively fragmented. New, there's a lot of different opportunities out there. I'm sure you see them. So what do you see as kind of the what do you see as the opportunity here? Like, what kind of acquisitions can you make? Because I think it would be very compelling. There's not a lot of pure plays in the esports world yet. There's only like a handful of small public companies, and none of them have really made a dent. I mean, there's really nobody has made a big dent. There's no billion-dollar pure play. We're not talking about. I'm not including the EAs or
exactly.
That's a different. Those are
that's gaming. Yeah, it's game developers.
But in the esports world, I don't think there is. Is there any pure play esports company with $1 billion market cap? I don't think so.
No, and EGLX is making a great run at that. They're 300+ million market cap.
They're not known in the US. They have no awareness in the US market.
So, and we want to go. We want to fly right by them. We want to be the next $1 billion company. We are going to do that. And like I said, you mentioned acquisitions and fragmentation, and that's exactly what our acquisition pipeline has. We have a healthy acquisition pipeline. I have a lot of contacts in Europe and throughout the world, and opportunities that are just primed for consolidation. And that's naturally what's going to happen, right? We're going to continue to consolidate all of Europe. We're going to move into Asia aggressively, into North America.
So EGLX, from what I understand, is that they really grew the company through a whole series of acquisitions. Using this share, using the stock as currency to make acquisitions. So I mean, that's kind of, you're kind of following sort of that model in a way, but just in a different aspect.
Not really. We have a little bit of a different model. If you want to make it comparable, our acquisition model would be more comparable to Well Health Technologies. That's over $1 billion. They're consistent. They follow a similar model to us. They believe in revenue and driving revenue and creative acquisitions. And I think that would be a better comparable. And it's more in line with our goals of heading directly to $1 billion market cap.
Okay. So bottom line is, you're only going to make acquisitions of companies that have revenues, cash flow positive at least?
Oh yeah. Always accretive. Always accretive.
Okay, so that makes sense. Essentially, any acquisitions you make in the esports space have to be accretive, right out of the gate.
And they have to be in line with the vision. So another reason we did the deal with WPG is because the founders and the core executive team, they believe in developing and growing a company to $1 billion market cap together, and it shows by the structure of the deal. They wanted shares versus cash. They didn't want to dilute. They wanted to grow, and they wanted to see the company appreciate. And that's exactly in line with my vision. Because if you're convinced in the story and you're heading in a direction, it makes sense why they would take a deal like that.
Yeah. So let's maybe, if we can, you have a pipeline of potential acquisitions there. So, which the market always likes, which is always very, very, very positive. So can you kind of give a hint maybe of what types, you don't have to say but like, in what sectors are you going to make those acquisitions, like to, kind of fill out the whole, again, like you're putting together like a puzzle. Like one of our companies that's been a very hot performer is CloudMD, similar, kind of like Well Health, but different.
Yeah.
And they're going through a series of acquisitions, and they're kind of like little puzzle pieces. Sometimes people don't understand exactly why they're doing them, but then all of a sudden they pull back and they say, oh, this is how everything fits in. And then all of a sudden they're creating this, I believe that's going to be a multi-billion-dollar asset. And I think
I agree.
doing something very similar. So what are you going to be buying? Are you buying teams? What kind of things?
So as it pertains to the acquisitions, like I said, we have a very healthy pipeline in a lot of different areas, but they're going to be all synergistic and they're all going to be accretive. I mean, the one thing I could say is that they're going to be synergistic, accretive, and non-dilutive. So they're going to always have, a lot of. I'm going to be looking after the shareholders and making sure that we have the ability to continue to grow with minimal dilution.
Okay. Let's see. Let's jump into some questions, some audience questions here.
Yeah, let's go. Let's fire it up.
We got a bunch of questions. Mohammed, how many shares are held by the CEO? You.
It's a good question. Roughly around 17 million shares.
Okay. Let's see. How many total diluted shares? I guess he's asking. I guess Gilbert is asking how many after the acquisition. I think that's the question he's asking.
So as I mentioned, anticipated under 50 million after we close the transaction. So it's very healthy, amazing deal, and it keeps the structure super tight.
Okay. Will you need to raise capital to close this deal?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay. What's the bottom line? This is 12.5 million revenue. What's the bottom line on this?
So the details of the deal will come out soon, but it's a healthy margin.
Okay, so Carl's making an interesting comment. So this is an infrastructure deal, so I guess basically it becomes sticky, no?
100%. When you build relationships and partnerships with the biggest groups in the world, it's absolutely sticky. And there's no coincidence that they're re-signing contracts for not only 2021, but even into 2022 with ESE.
Okay. And I think, I mean, I don't know if you view it this way, but I'm thinking like, look, if you have like these, key parts of infrastructure that kind of power esports and other things, it kind of gives you a foot in the door. I don't want to use the word Trojan horse, but I mean, it kind of gives you a foot in the door with a lot of players where, those could become potential acquisitions or, there's a lot of M&A opportunity that happens there, no?
I like that. Let's call it the Trojan horse. I mean, it's a massive opportunity. We could really drive it. You're 100% right. We're positioned perfectly.
Okay. This is interesting. Do you forecast any significant or exclusive media rights coming up by the end of the year?
Unfortunately, we can't discuss exactly, but we definitely have some things in the works.
Okay. I think Conrad, I think we should talk about, because I think a lot of people like who are not in the media business, they don't really understand like what media rights are, like how that works, and like the massive
of course
involved. So can you explain how that will pertain to esports and why really right now it's ground floor?
Yeah, and it's really relevant as it pertains to gaming and esports. So we discuss some of these big groups, Activision, Blizzard, Riot Games, etc. So you obviously need permission from these groups to use their branding, to use their game, to monetize. So we go and create deals with these big gaming publishers to get exclusive digital media rights for specific regions and countries. So then we could then monetize our tournaments based off their games. We could bring in real advertising and sponsorship in a kosher manner that's in line with all of the gaming publishers' rules and regulations. So if we pursue a Coca-Cola sponsorship, for example, and they say, great, let's do this massive tournament. We love the idea, but do you have the media rights from Riot Games? And we say, yes, we do. So then they will then proceed. If you don't have those media rights, you can't take it to the next level and monetize those specific advertising opportunities and sponsorship opportunities.
Okay. And in terms of, so let's say you're able to broadcast this in, let's say Europe, right now you're doing stuff in Poland.
Yeah.
I think other European countries. What's, like is like, what kind of traction is esports getting right now? From what I understand is that advertisers, sponsors, brands, they want to reach the audience who watches this, because that's kind of the millennials who are spending money.
Well, it's unbelievable. We touched on this last time. It's a $1 billion+ revenue business globally, growing 25% year over year. Specifically in Europe, we're talking a 580+ million online population with 32 million+ esports enthusiasts alone and growing. To give you context, last time I was in Poland for the IEM Katowice World Championships, it blew my mind. These players were on billboards, bus stops, on buses, on national TV, deals with Adidas, Nike. I mean, Europe's in hyper growth phase right now. It's unbelievable. Obviously COVID's an issue, but I really recommend to go over to some of these tournaments and it'll blow your mind. It's unbelievable. Packed stadiums. It's a real buzz and everyone knows about it. Unlike, sometimes in North America, in Canada specifically, it's a little bit of a smaller market, but Europe is just absolutely booming. And we're right in the thick of it, right?
I mean, Asia is even bigger.
Well, Asia is massive. 170 million gamers just in Southeast Asia. So our partner, our technology partner, he did the Southeast Asia Games for Razer, a multi-billion-dollar company. And, there's tens of thousands of participants in tournaments. It's absolutely insane. It's unbelievable.
I got a question from Derek. Who are your closest competitors focusing on esports infrastructure?
That's a great question. I think now, post acquisition with WPG, we won't have too many competitors in that space.
Your opinion on Microsoft buying Smash GG?
That's a great question. I was actually speaking.
Can you explain? I'm not aware.
It's an online tournament platform.
Okay.
And that's a very interesting question because I was speaking to the founder of Meta, our technology partner. He used to work for Microsoft and he's a director of publishing for Activision Blizzard. And we were discussing that transaction because it shows how much value our technology and our platform has.
Okay.
So we're very, very comparable platforms there.
Okay. So this guy's asking a technical question here. Mr. B is asking, so publishers, I guess the game publishers own the intellectual property for each game. What is ESE Entertainment's revenue sharing and broadcast rights plan?
So revenue shares as it pertains to, intellectual property, it changes from publisher to publisher. It changes, whether you're doing live TV versus online tournaments. So it's a little bit of a loaded question, but typically I could use a multiplier as it pertains to sponsorship and advertising. We've seen a 10x multiple having media rights and intellectual property of some of the digital rights versus not having them. So working with the gaming publishers and having the media rights typically gives you a 10x multiplier in sponsorship and advertising.
Okay. What percentage of your business do you see coming in from, sponsors and ads, that type of thing? What's the percentage going forward?
Currently it's about 30% right now, but I see huge growth potential there. I mean, like I said, this is early days and we're chasing those massive opportunities like the exclusive 5-year deals, 3-year deals, 10-year deals. If we land one of those, I mean, there's multi-million-dollar implications there as it pertains to revenue. So it's about 30%, but I would love to see it grow because, those are fantastic opportunities right now.
Okay. I guess Tony's asking, would you consider getting into hardware?
It's a great question. We have some fantastic relationships with Razer. They're one of our sponsors, Crosshair, also multi-billion-dollar companies in their own right. But right now, I don't think it's going to be a core focus for us. We're happy with our partnerships with them.
Okay. Finam is asking, you keep mentioning the Dallas Cowboys. Are you looking to work with the Dallas Cowboys in the near future?
I have some friends that play on the team. We'll leave it at that.
let's see here. What are the questions do we have here? We get a technical question about the cap table lockups.
So very tight structure. So all the founders are in a 3-year lockup periods. And similarly with our acquisition, it's going to be under the same vesting period. So 3-year lockups. So very tight as it pertains to lockups.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay. No more questions so far. Conrad, okay. So you got this acquisition. What do you have like next? Again, we're kind of the end of the year here. What do you expect to have any significant announcements next couple of weeks? Like, what kind of stuff can we look for in terms of news flow?
How fast did you get me back on the show?
Anytime. You're welcome anytime here.
Well, exactly. I mean, it took you 2-3 days to call me back to come on for this news. There's more in the pipeline. I'll tell you one thing. We got a lot of news coming. So I'm going to be on the show a lot, and I hope you guys tune in. We could continue to build awareness here. But these are all going to be very meaningful news, and you'll see, and you'll start to see the consistency coming down the road here.
Okay. We get a question from Derek. Will you create partnerships with single teams similar to DraftKings BetMGM? Follow up to Cowboys question.
Yeah, I mean, we're open to partnerships. We're working on a couple of things, but I mean, it's just not really part of our core strategy at the moment.
Okay. I think George is asking, when is the next big event? I think he's asking about esports events. Like, what kind of big events are coming up?
As it pertains for us,
I think I think it's more general, right? I think he's asking about general, like in the esports world, maybe tournaments or whatever. Or...
Yeah, I think in general.
I don't know. It's an open-ended question. I don't know what he means.
No. In general, I mean, Europe's pretty quiet, but things are going to really ramp up in the new year. And then as it pertains to us, our technology provider is actually running the LATAM, one of the biggest tournaments in all of LATAM, so Latin America, with Razer as well. So that's a large-scale tournament to watch out for.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay, we'll wrap up. Which games? I guess he's asking, which games do you play?
Great question. I'm old school, man. So I'm a Madden guy and NCAA football, which some of you guys will laugh at. I'm sure the young guys will laugh at. I played a bunch of 007 when I was younger, but I love the sports games. So Madden and NCAA.
Here's this is an important question. I think in your debut presentation, you mentioned that your goal was to really build $1 billion business. So Hawaii 808 wants to know when is this going to happen?
As soon as possible.
Revenues.
I mean, as soon as possible. We're going to continue to pound and scale, and we're just going to drive towards the goal of $1 billion market cap. And obviously, you need meaningful revenue to get there. And this was the big first step, guys. Doing this WPG deal, having the tight structure, and putting on 12+ million of revenue on the books for us. I mean, that's going to be a great first step in that direction. Look at the groups like Tesla and all these other groups, right? We want to follow that trajectory. It takes a little bit of time, but when you keep pounding and pounding, you're going to get there.
Well, I'll tell you, kind of the positive thing is what you played football, like professional football for 5 years. And usually, I mean, if any pro athlete, I mean, to get to that level is, people have to be disciplined and the persistence and discipline.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's a lot of people who can play football, but not that many can get paid to pay. Yeah,
I mean, I think that's an understatement. I mean, under 1% of the world gets the opportunity to play pro sports. I'm wired differently. I'm going to hit this as hard as I can. I mean, I'm just going to go, man. Trust me. You got to just follow the story, watch the news come out. I will outwork and outcompete everyone. Like, I'm just gonna grind. I'm gonna build foundation. I'm just gonna layer and layer and layer until I get to that $1 billion market cap. That's the goal. And when I'm locked onto something, it's happening.
Okay, Conrad, let's. Oh, we're out of time. We're gonna have you back as soon as there's news. But let's recap here for anybody that's new to the live stream. Yeah, we're gonna ask you our favorite question here at the Wall Street Reporter, which is, top 3 reasons, in your opinion, top 3 reasons why investors should consider ESE shares today.
Well, first and foremost, esports is a global mega trend, and we're right in the middle of it. You're getting a ground floor opportunity with ESE with massive upside, and it's an opportunity to get in early and hard. And at the end of the day, we deliver. You saw the LOI go out. We're doing accretive acquisition. We continue to deliver. There's consistent news coming out. So we have a game plan and a vision. So we're right in the middle of a massive mega trend, and we got a vision, and we're delivering on it. Every single time we're on the show, we're delivering.
Okay, Conrad, we're off to a good start. We always like to see companies that are actually making that consistent progress. They're climbing that ladder. It's always that's beneficial. Always works out well for the stocks that we've seen. I mean, all the previous 10 baggers, 20 baggers we've had followed the same pattern. So we look forward to having you back on very soon, or at least our audiences. So. On that note, Conrad, I want to thank you, and we'll see you very soon, hopefully, right?
I would love to be back on, guys, and you're really excited just to be on the show and share the story. And I think, keep a close eye on it.
Conrad, we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Great. Have a great day, guys.
Okay, let's get ready to meet our next presenter. Hang on one moment. Let me pull this up. Is Alex here? Alex. Okay, Alex. Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for scheduling me after Conrad. But yeah.
All right. And you guys know each. I mean, in Vancouver.
Yeah, it's a small world. Yeah, we go back a little ways, but yeah, I'll throw my 2 cents in. Don't underestimate that guy in any way, shape, or form.
Okay. What I think you were saying, you had a training. Give us the background story while we get the thing set up here.
Yeah. No, I in a part of my business career, I owned a training center here in Vancouver, and when Conrad was pursuing his professional sports career, he was doing a fair bit of training at our facility. So I got to know him then, and was surprised. I'm not surprised to see him take that determination and drive into the business world. And it's nice to see. But it was interesting, of all the people in the world to show up this morning with Conrad, right?
So now we're gonna have 2. We're gonna have you 2 guys. We need to have 2 back-to-back 10 baggers. Alex, we've had this year, we've had 3 stocks that are up between 1,300 and 2,000%. We want to close out. I think the year is almost ending. I'd like to have in 2021, I want to have like 10 baggers or more, and maybe CRVC can be one of them, because we're looking for our first, resource company. In gold, you're in the right space at the right time. So, and I believe gold. I'm not a gold bug. I'm not like, whatever. I listen, gold, I believe, for multiple reasons, and I've been usually right about it for whatever reason, it's going to be a $3,500 number very soon. So, I'm looking for, you're actually our first gold stock that we've had on the program. So, I want to get your presentation. We're going to
let me follow up. Let me follow up on what you just said there. Oh, yeah. People should understand the things we saw record prices in gold in 2020. The things that drove that performance, monetary policy, pandemic, weaker US dollar, there's a number of things that contributed. They're all right here, right now, still. In fact, even more. We're going to have a stimulus package that's going to pass soon to reignite the economy. That's going to be a massive debt-inspiring maneuver. Janet Yellen has been named, it will be the Treasury Secretary. She's a soft dollar advocate. So these things, the pandemic's not going anywhere tomorrow. We're going to be living with it through 2021. Hopefully the vaccines will come in and start to lessen the impact. But all of these things, the economic, the outflow of the pandemic in 2020, we'll be feeling those effects well into 2021. So there's no reason at all to expect the metal to underperform. So to your point of a record price, I think it's well within reason to expect it to happen again. And then that's when stocks like CRVC perform very well. I'll follow that up with one quick thing, and that is we're an explorer. And you can have your producers.
For all the gurus we've had, all the gold gurus we've had, said, look, you got to be positioned in the explorers. The producers really underperform when gold is running. So it's,
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, they're steady, right? Because they have resources in the ground, and the needle's not going to move much. For an explorer, particularly an explorer that checks off some boxes, which we'll discuss. That's where you can find your 10 baggers, and it's not a pie in the sky, unreasonable expectation. You find the explorers that you think have a good shot at an impactful and meaningful discovery, and then that's where you place your bets.
Yeah, so I mean, Alex, I mean, the reason why we got you onto the platform was, again, like I'm looking, because I'm very bullish on gold, right? And I'm looking to bring in some junior exploration companies which have again, our whole focus is high potential big potential companies which are well, in let's say the tech world or whatever, multi-billion-dollar opportunities.
Yeah.
In the resource sector. They have to have projects which have huge upside, and with multiple catalysts in place near term. So there are things that could really drive the value. So that's what we're gonna find out. But I think this is gonna be, I think the junior gold space is gonna get. I know, right? It's been a little quiet the last month or so, but
Yep.
I think it's gonna heat up.
It's all tied to the metal price, right?
Very shortly. Yeah.
It's amazing what happens. Pfizer will put out a news release on a Sunday into a Monday morning, and gold will drop $80. But Pfizer comes out with a little news yesterday, basically saying the amount of doses that they thought they could deliver in 2021 has been cut in half. But gold didn't react to that. So it's an amazing, kind of dynamic. Everyone wants the hopeful news, and we're going to get it. But like I said, I think the timing here is we're going to be settled in here, and I think the metal's going to perform quite well through 2021.
So Alex, so let's get the slides up on the screen.
All right, I'm going to do what I can here. We did a technical run through that was it had some hiccups, but let's see what happens here.
Because we want people to see the whole thing on the big screen here.
Let's go. You tell me if you can see what I see.
Okay. I got. Okay, so I'm looking at. Okay, so I see the slide is on the. Okay, it's perfect now. So
how's that?
It's perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disappear from the screen, and I'll come back when you are finished. Okay.
Sure.
Alex, take it away.
Sure. There's a nice splashy front page for our presentation deck. We are Cross River Ventures Corp. We trade on the Canadian Securities Exchange under the symbol CRVC. There's our standard disclaimer about forward-looking statements. And I would say, if you're a speed reader, go ahead and read it. But I think the most important thing at the bottom of this slide is the technical content in this presentation has been reviewed and approved by Dr. Rob Carpenter. He's a PhD. He's what we call a qualified person. And they make sure that the data that we present is factual, accurate, and can be relied upon. So that's good to see. We'll talk more about Rob as we move along. I mentioned check boxes, and when you when you place your bets, and I hate to say bets, but you're in Vegas, right, Jack?
Yes, yes. So yeah, I that's what I look at this as this. I look at these stocks. I mean, and all these stocks, it's speculation. You're making a bet, right? It's
Yeah,
a
yeah. Now
hot earnings, right?
here's an analogy, a Vegas analogy for you. If you don't know much about craps and you're in Vegas and you want to play craps, it's fairly complex. It's not an easy game. It's not like roulette. Craps, there's different betting, different odds, different things you can do. One way to be successful playing craps in Vegas, if you don't know the game real well, is to shadow or mirror the bets of the guys at or the gals at the table who are doing well. So you can place your bets, move your chips alongside um, some of those better players, and you're going to expect to at least do as well as they do.
It's just like in
So
stock, following the smart money.
follow the smart money. And so, what do you look for in Explorer? Well, you got to look for a management team that has a combined experience or has the ability to market a company, raise capital. But more importantly to that, and you need a world-class technical team. And that's checkbox 2 here for us. Um, our technical team, who we'll talk a bit more about, I mean, they have significant discovery and proven exploration success under their belts. So these are people who've made world-class discoveries, understand how to find gold in the ground, and you've got to have that to have any kind of a reasonable shot at replicating that type of success. So we think our technical team is one of the best in Canada, and we'll get into that momentarily. Part of also one of the major things you need to see here is district scale, large project ground that give you the opportunity at these big deposit discoveries. And not only that, but you look for what we call pedigreed exploration projects. So these come from the people who find the ground and the people who vetted the ground, and these are in the right areas where you're typically going to find these large deposits. And so we've met that. That check mark is there for a reason. And then we're gonna do something a little different. We're using a data-driven exploration strategy. One of the things you see in this business is sort of a rinse repeat cycle where companies will go in, they'll look for a little bit of historic work that's been done. They'll try to replicate that historic work, concentrate their efforts around where those gold showings have maybe been discovered or confirmed, and then try to raise money on that. And then it's hard to step out of that. And we're going to do that through focused project development. And we'll get into that as we get along here. The next slide is really a very important slide. What you're looking at here is a section of the Archean Superior Province, which is a very technical term for the right geology in northwest Ontario. It also stretches from Manitoba, it basically stretches across Canada, but the real gold-bearing areas of the Archean Superior Province are really centered in Quebec and Ontario. This is what they call one of the sub-provinces. There's several, but this is the Uchi sub-province. And if we look over here, obviously everybody knows Red Lake, and there's been millions, just millions and millions of ounces of gold pulled out of the ground there. And then we move east to say Pickle Crow, this area in here. But we're concentrated not only in these very prolific belts, but we've got projects down here as well. All of these brownish tan, I don't know, is that taupe? What's that color, Jack? That these are our projects. Okay, we have 28,000 hectares of ground. That's a district scale in anybody's book. We have a lot of shots here at the big win, but we're going to concentrate mostly the early exploration efforts, and the early work we're doing is going to be right in here. This is the Lang Lake belt. We have really about 11,000 hectares in this belt. We control the structural elements of that belt, which is where you're going to find gold. And we'll zoom in on that here right now. The main thrust of the Lang Lake belt is the McIver project. It's actually several projects that we've pieced together. We picked up McIver East in a private transaction with a company called Northern Dominion Metals, which was put together by Dr. Rob Carpenter and his team. So we acquired that ground, which is basically this part of McVicker. Actually over here a little more. Then we went and cut a deal with a company called Argo Gold, and we picked up the western half of this Lang Lake belt, and that gave us more showings, more historic work. And now we've subsequently done another 4,000 hectare acquisition that puts together this 11,500 hectare McVicker project. So it's very large. You can see this trend here, this trend of the belt, that there's already lots of gold there. There's historic estimates, non-historic estimates here of 6 gram gold, 5 gram gold. The Golden Patricia mine was a historic producer, almost 700,000 ounces total of higher grade gold. So we're in the area where there's gold. Now you see these dots, all of these dots you see moving up through these trends. These are gold showings or gold occurrences. That's verified gold at surface and below surface through drill holes, through sampling, through channel sampling, and other things. And you see how many of these occurrences we actually have on our project grounds. So that's a really good sign. These are the prerequisites you need to see when you're looking for big deposits. There's a lot of verbiage on our current deck, and there's really no reason for me to go through all of it. Really, it backs up our technical analysis of why we think we're in the right area to do what we want to do. I think the main thing here is really to understand that this 11,500 hectare project covers the main structural elements of the entire belt. So we've got the folds, we've got the fault zones, the damage zones, the areas where gold deposition is likely to occur and has occurred. But we're in a real interesting situation, as a lot of the ground has just not been explored with any kind of real systematic, sustained efforts since the 90s. We'll go through that here. Again, this is another very technical graphic on McVicker. Again, we're going through the different gold showings and where they are, and you can see how they line up. There's more gold showings to be found here, but what's most important is to get an idea structurally of where these lines, these fault lines, occur. These cracks that you see through these projects is how gold seeps in. There was a mineralized event. Gold was a fluid, came in through these cracks. One of the tech team guys likes to refer to it as, if you grab a wet sponge and squeeze it, you're going to see the water come between your fingers. It's going to seep through your fingers, in the cracks between your fingers. That's essentially a very easy way to understand how gold deposition occurs. It's forced up through these cracks or these fault lines, and that's where it settles. So we know that it's there. We're going to find the best places to put those drill holes and make what we think will be an impactful discovery. Some historical drill results. Again, this goes back to BHP, a big multinational that was working in Canada in the early 90s. 6.5, almost 6.5 grams over 10 meters. It's a really, really good drill hole. Again, you've got 5.5 grams over 3.6 meters. All sorts of nice early runs, but they weren't really doing much work. I think. Again, you look here. There's the Cello vein outcrop on McVicker Lake, where you have some really interesting numbers. You look down here. There were 34 channel samples taken in this area. The average grade of those channel samples was 28 grams per ton gold, which is a high grade return. Some of the samples were, bonanza grade, 578 grams per ton, 533 grams per ton. Those are eye-popping. So we think the requisite amount of work has been done here, just enough to tease you, not enough for you to say, well, how did they miss it? They just didn't do enough work. And companies like BHP left Canada primarily because of events like Bre-X, which turned out to be a huge fiasco. This land's essentially been sitting dormant for 20 years. Another part of the portfolio is this Northern Dominion portfolio, which we acquired in November. Again, these are just some of the details on some of the projects. Again, it makes up about 28,000 hectares. It's a lot of ground. We're not going to go through all these summaries today, but people are welcome to do that. Just go to our website, click on the presentation. You can read about just the initial summary material on these projects. We have another project called Fuchsite. It's a joint venture earn-in with a company called Ethos Gold. We really like Fuchsite. It was really brought to our attention by Rob Carpenter, and it's one of our main projects at this point. I'm going to show you a couple things here real quick. These small gold showings that we see, there's 3 on this one map. I'm going to skip ahead. I want you to see where those gold showings are in relation to the black lines. Those black lines are interpreted faults on the Fuchsite property, but I want you to see, the proximity of these gold showings to those faults. These faults, again, as I mentioned, are the cracks where you're going to find gold deposition. The gold's going to leak from below through these cracks closer to surface, and it's not a coincidence that you see these yellow dots in close proximity to fault lines. So these structural faults are where you find gold, and again, Fuchsite shows that potential. We really think McVicker shows that potential as well. The TSX Gold Project is another project we have, another large project. It's here in British Columbia. It's an early stage copper gold project. We're doing some work on it right now. There's some historic work that's been done in the area. We're just getting a better idea of the lay of the land right now. We've got boots on the ground and they're getting the work done. Our 2021 exploration plans are simple. Now, I'd love to be able to tell people today, hey, we'll be drilling next week. People like those types of catalysts and they tend to drive share price. But we're going to do this the right way. This is not necessarily a trade as much as it is an actual investment. And people have to understand the difference today between the two. And you and I can talk more about that as we get along here. But we're in the process at the moment of compiling all the historical data. Our geological team has, we have 2 PhDs and 2 masters. So we have the requisite expertise to go through this data. It's amazing what you can find when you go through, say, government files. And in between Q1 and Q2, we're going to be doing a lot of remote sensing data. These are airborne surveys. LIDAR is a laser survey, and these magnetic surveys, they're going to show us where these big fault lines are within our property boundaries. We're going to get on the ground in Q2, Q3, do a lot of field work, what we call ground truthing. This is prospecting, surface sampling, to verify that the imagery that we get from the airbornes is where we want to be. We'll get into drilling and follow-up sampling in the high priority areas through Q3 and Q4. So that's really the story here. We expect to get where we want by Q2, Q3. The story is really going to improve. We have, again, this is our management team, myself, John Fraser, the president, Alex, the other Alex, the CFO. We have an experienced board. We've got a vice president of exploration who helps us out. We have an exploration manager who will show you here. This is the technical advisory team. Lori Peslowski, Dr. Rob Carpenter, Dr. Alan Wainwright, and Daniel McNeil. This is, I don't know if you want to use a baseball analogy maybe here, since we're talking sports today. But like a murderer's row. This is the 27 Yankees right here. I know I'm dating myself a bit, but we've got an all-star team here. These people have amazing success in the business. Rob's claim to fame, obviously, was the discovery of the multi-million ounce coffee gold project deposit in the Yukon. It ended up being about 5 million ounces. He was the CEO of Kaminik from inception through the acquisition in 2016 when Kaminik was acquired by Goldcorp for over $500 million. So, again, these people, all of them have been involved with some major discoveries. And that's we're going to rely on their expertise. They're critical to this entire operation, and we're happy and lucky to be involved with them. Another thing we should mention here is obviously capital structure. We're very early in our life as a public company. We IPO'd in July. We only have 21 million shares out at the moment. We're doing a raise right now, a brokered financing in Canada, what they call a flow-through financing. So we'll be able to add more capital pretty quickly here for the exploration work in 2021. So we'll be funded to do all of it. And really what we'd like to do, I think shares outstanding is a very important number. we want to be in that 30, 35, under 40 million shares out when we get to what we hope is impactful discovery. And I think that's a perfect place to be. Demand should outweigh supply on the stock, and that's how you get your multiples. Again, Cross River Ventures, please visit the website, crossriverventures.com. And there you go, Jack. Now you have to get me back on screen. So
Okay.
I'm going to get out of this.
Okay, you're back. Alex, you're back. Okay, the slides are
back.
off.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so let's.
I ripped through that pretty quick here, but I want to make sure that we have our we get the message out and people understand the scale of the play.
Yeah, I know. I think that's the main thing. Is what I like to see. Look, last time, the first couple of times we had you for the Q&A format. Now we show everything on the screen so people can visualize. Some people I'm a visual guy. I like to see the thing on the screen. So let's see if we have. Let's open up for audience Q&A.
Oh, Q&A.
Yeah, Q&A. We'll see if we have any questions today. Okay, I got George asking, how much is it going to cost you to drill? I guess maybe the follow-up, do you have enough money to drill, or will you have enough?
Yeah, no, what we have right now, essentially, there will be drill money. We have about $700,000 in the bank. We're doing a $2 million raise here. We expect to sell that out. A lot of that money is going into exploration. But to really drill out something of significance, we're going to need to raise more money. We hope to be able to do that in a much more robust environment, i.e., the price of gold back, closer to 2,000. Our share price in a better place. Right now, we're trading that 35-cent Canadian range. We'd like to be, north of 40 or 45 and 50 if we're lucky. But that would be the ideal price point to do another big raise. But we should be able to raise another 2-3 million. I think drilling is going to come down to how much we have in the bank. How much drilling can we do? But an ideal budget might be in that $3 to $5 million range. And we know we already have institutional interest, some big check writers. So having guys like Rob on board and his team obviously makes those types of raises much more likely.
Okay, so I think you brought up an interesting point. Like at the last slide you showed, you basically you have the capital structure. You said that it's very important to have under 40 million shares outstanding when you make that big strike.
Sure, and I hate to do this because I do not want to compare us in any way, shape, or form to Great Bear Resources (GBR) on the TSX.V. But everybody talks about what happened with them. First of all, they were outside of Red Lake, just south of Red Lake, in an area that wasn't necessarily, seen as a place that might hold a big deposit. They had 35 million out when they hit the big hole. They're a huge success story. And that might be, in fact, a generational find. So I'm not trying to compare us geologically to. But
you're in the same neighborhood, basically, though.
Yeah, we are absolutely. I mean, the
geologist came from Great Bear, right?
It's a different type of deposit over there. There's different names, technical names for these types of things. But we are in the right place to do something similar to what Great Bear did, and that is make an impactful, meaningful discovery. And we have the technical team to do it. We have the land size to do it. We're in the right neighborhood. We're the Nevada of the North, where we are. And everybody knows, gold's history in Nevada. It's had a lot more work done and a lot more people involved down there than this particular area. So, there are places in the planet here where you can find big deposits, and we feel we're in the right place. And it's not just us. There's a lot of other people in the area as well.
How did for some context, in terms of dollars, how did the Great Bear stock do, once they made that big discovery?
It became a Canadian success story, a market success story overnight. I hate to admit that I actually own shares under $1. I happen to work in the building where some of the people work, one of the geologists. And I heard about it. And, I took a little piece in the open market, and I do what a lot of people do, and I made the classic mistake of being fatigued, and I said, I got to move that money into something else, and lo and behold. So that's a cautionary message here to people. And you and I had this. I used this analogy last time I spoke to you about the movie. And good movie starting right here, people. This is a good story. So take your position or grab your bucket of popcorn, sit back, and let the story play out. But don't make the mistake of leaving the theater. 20 minutes into the story. It's probably a bad idea.
Right. One of the big mistakes, like I like to say, look, like the stocks that we feature, they're kind of like, great, I'm going to run with what you're saying. Like these are, great movies, but this is like a multiplex because we have, multiple screens and there's also thousands of other stocks. And a lot of investors, they make the mistake. They come in as the movie is about to start playing, they get and then they run into the next theater. They go, and they don't see, sometimes they don't see the whole, they get 2 minutes of one movie, 2 minutes of the other, but they're not getting the whole show. So
no. And
I'm
listen,
going to use that.
People like to talk about skin in the game. So management controls, insiders control almost, if not 10% of the company. Here's a really important point too. The technical team are shareholders. They're almost at a 10% threshold between them. And we have Argo Gold also is a 10% holder through our acquisition. So there's 30% of the float right there. 30% of the stock out today is held pretty tightly. And to see that, management has skin in the game. We believe in this to the point where, I'm buying in the open market. You can see that I'm buying the stock in the open market as the CEO, not because I'm trying to send these, wonderful signals to people that people try to, maybe manipulate the market by saying, oh, the CEO's buying. Listen, I'm buying it. I'm putting it in a bottom drawer here because, I go back to that Vegas analogy. I'm fortunate enough to be working with people like Rob and his team, and I believe in them, and I believe in their ability to do what they do. And I'm very happy to put my money on this in this venture because I think we're going to be a success story in 2021. Absolutely.
For the great beer though, how did that stock do? Went from like what was the because
well, if you're asking me the actual numbers on the day of, I couldn't tell you that. I owned it under $1, and it's traded as high as $13-14 a share.
30 or 40?
No, 13 or 14.
13 or 14. Okay,
I can tell you right now, actually, what they're trading at today. I'll tell you right now, it's 16.72 today.
Oh, okay,
Share.
not bad. Okay.
No, not bad at all. And listen, if I kept that position I had at 90 cents, that's a nice run right there.
So you're in the same area. You got some of the same. There's some similarities. There's a little bit of. I'm not saying that hey, this is going to be nobody can say that, but
everybody wants to be the next Great Bear.
There's enough there. Okay, let's get a couple questions. We got now you mentioned a number of properties. Which Eric is asking which ones have the highest priority for you?
Yeah, 100%. That's McVicker. That's why I keyed on it in the presentation in the slide deck. It has very few companies can say they control an entire greenstone belt in the Archean Superior Province. And we do that. We have that. Now Lang Lake's not a massive belt, but 11,500 hectares in that belt. We're controlling all of the structural elements, all of the breaks, all of the folds, all of it under one consolidated land package. And that gives us an even better shot. Explorers are typically looked at as high risk, high reward. I would make the argument, and I think it's backed up by the data and the people involved, that this is lesser risk, high reward. So I think it's important that people understand that we remove risk by location, by size, by the team, by the quality of the work that's been done to date. And there's a nice mix between the historical work is just enough to tell you there's something there, but not enough work where you're going, well, how could there be 1 million ounces if everybody's done this work before? Right in that sweet spot where there's just enough to tell you, okay, this is compelling. And this ground was scouted by this technical group, and they didn't do it just, to have a paycheck. They're doing it for that big, impactful, meaningful discovery.
Okay, interesting. We got Mr. B asking, can you touch on the MACD research or
Yeah,
agreement.
absolutely. That came together over the last couple of days. Yeah, I don't know if Mr. B is Canadian or US viewer, but in Canada we have something called flow-through opportunities, flow-through financings. That's it's a tax incentive. So if you invest $20,000 into a flow-through financing, you can write that $20,000 off of your income for the year. So we have funds up here that partake in these types of things. And a lot of retail investors do that as well. So this is typically, we're actually late in the flow through season this time, but we did a call the other day with some analysts and our technical team, and one of the analysts on the call was involved with Mackie, and they wanted to run as the lead broker, the lead bookmaker for this financing, which is what we call a brokered financing, and it's rare for brokered financings of this size to attach themselves to small market caps like Cross River. So that's a bit of a validation of the quality of the projects, quality of the team, that they're willing to take this to their network, which is a national network across west to east, across Canada, 160 desks internally for Mackie, and funds and high net worth investors. So for them to get on board with a backing like this, I think is a real validation of what we're doing and who's involved and our upside.
Okay. Let's see. When will drilling commence?
See, this is those questions people have. I'd love to tell you next week or next month, but that's not the case, and I'll tell you why. The old days, people used drills for early exploration work. It was costly. It was really not very effective when you consider how big a drill bit is and the size of these land packages. So we're going to use Q1 and Q2 to run these airborne surveys to show us where these fault lines are, because this area has never been really flown with the technology that's available today, and LiDAR is one of those technologies that just wasn't available back in the 90s. So we're going to be able to do that here in Q1, Q2, get our drill targets identified, get on the ground in Q2, and make sure that these are, in fact, they're going to look at outcrops, they're going to look at some soil samples and some chip samples and rock samples, grab samples, and then we're going to go and we're going to drill. So I'd like to tell you Q2, more likely the summer months, the warmer months will be when we get into drilling, and it won't be a one rig small drill program. It'll be a multi-rig large drill program, because we want to make that impactful discovery, that moment, that catalyst before too long. And in today's age, a few months seems like an eternity for investors, because investors aren't investors anymore. They're more like traders. So I'm trying to tell people, look, this is an investment. This is not necessarily a trade or a flip. I think it's going to happen next week. We're going to be able to get out on a 5-cent profit. We're not here for that. We're here for a multi-bagger that's done through methodical, disciplined exploration with the right people.
Alex, our audience, they're very spoiled. They want these 5-10 baggers to happen like 2 weeks, 3 weeks maximum. They get very nervous if it's taking longer.
So did I, and that's why I dumped my Great Bear stock, under $1.
And it went up 14x from there.
Yeah, you've gotta have some part of your portfolio.
Patience. We got to have
patience. Bottom drawer, leave it there. We used to give explorers in this business, a year and a half, 2 years. You'd buy an explorer and you'd sit on it for 2 years and let them do the work, because you're buying into the team, you're buying into the plan, buying into the projects. Now it's such a day trading flippers world that people lose sight of that. Now you can chase it up. You can chase it up all you want, buy in and out on the on the peaks and dips. But really, honestly, the less stressful way to do this is to pick your best explorers before the market runs, take a position, and let them do the work. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. I think we've done everything right here.
Alex, on that note, I want to thank you, and we're going to have you back, hopefully very soon with some good news. And I want to thank you and everybody in our audience for joining. We'll see you on the next live stream.
Awesome. Thanks, Jack. And if anybody has questions, hit us up with an email, and we'll get back to you immediately.
Thank you again.
Cheers.